My lustful father-in-law. They say home is the safest place, but why do I feel like I've brought fire into our own house? Just call me Betty, 32 years old, an online ESL teacher and a mother of three young children. It all started last year when my husband, Francis, had to fly to Dubai for an engineering project. Because I was struggling to manage the kids while working my night shifts, Burnock pleaded with me to let his father stay with us. My father-in-law is Henry, 54 years old, a retired seaman who has been a widower for nearly 10 years. At first I felt secure because Mang Pitoy was known for being disciplined, formal, and helpful with household chores. But as time passed without Francis, the atmosphere inside the four corners of this house began to change. Every night, while I was teaching in front of my computer, he would often knock to bring me coffee or snacks. Initially, I felt nothing but gratitude, but I noticed his gaze would linger on me before he left the room. One night, around midnight, just as I finished my last class, I went out to the kitchen for a glass of water. I saw Henry, my father-in-law, in the living room, wearing only loose shorts and a sando, sweating because he was supposedly fixing a broken faucet. Despite his age, his body still showed the traces of his years as a seaman, firm muscles and a certain smoothness in every movement. Our eyes met, and instead of looking away, he smiled slightly while slowly wiping the sweat from his neck. "You're still awake, Betty," he said. His voice was deep, sounding almost like a caress to my ears. I drank my water quickly, but I could feel his eyes measuring every curve of my body through my thin nightgown. I don't know why my heart suddenly raced, a spark of electricity I hadn't felt since Burnock left. I rushed back to my room, but before I could close the door, I heard his soft footsteps in the hallway. I realized then that the father-in-law I thought was my protection was becoming the very spark of chaos in my life. Weeks passed, and Henry and I grew closer, especially since we were the only ones awake in the middle of the night. One evening, I had just finished bathing and was wrapped only in a towel because I had forgotten my clothes in the laundry area outside. Thinking everyone was asleep, I peeked out of the bathroom door. I was startled to find Henry standing there, holding my freshly laundered nightgowns. "I think you forgot these, Betty," he said, staring directly at my shoulders, which were still glistening with water. I should have been afraid. I should have been angry. But why did I feel frozen in place? I reached for the clothes, and the moment our fingers brushed, I felt the heat of his skin. He didn't let go immediately. Instead, he leaned closer until I could smell his breath. "I know how lonely you are, child," he whispered, a hint of intensity in his eyes. That night, we had a few drinks in the living room while watching an old movie. "The budget Francis sent is exhausted, Pa," I said, feeling a bit lightheaded from the gin pomelo he had mixed. "Don't worry about the money, Betty. I'm here to fill in everything my son is lacking," he replied. He placed his hand on my thigh, and I didn't push it away. It was as if my body instinctively moved toward him. "It's you I need right now, Pa," was all that came out of my mouth before he hungrily kissed me. He was vigorous and full of experience. Every touch felt as though he had been saving up his longing for 25 years. He carried me into the master bedroom, the room I shared with Francis, and there everything gave way. My father-in-law was even more passionate than my husband. I thought perhaps it was because he had been a widower for so long, and I was like parched earth finally receiving rain. But in the midst of our passion, I didn't realize someone was watching through the slightly ajar door. I nearly jumped out of bed when I heard a faint sob. I scrambled to cover myself with a blanket while my father-in-law quickly put on his shorts. When I opened the door, I went cold. There was my eldest child crying while holding a tablet. "Mama, why are you in bed with Grandpa? I'm going to tell Dad," the child said before running away. Henry and I looked at each other. The heat of the moment was instantly replaced by intense fear and regret. "Pa, what are we going to do? This will destroy my family," I whispered hysterically, my hands shaking. My father-in-law remained calm. He held my shoulders and said he would find a way to fix everything. The next day, we took the child to a specialist because they had become withdrawn after seeing us. We discovered the child had a special condition requiring intense therapy and attention. At the same time, Henry decided to consult a doctor because he had been feeling weak. We found out he had an early-stage prostate condition requiring immediate treatment. Seeking guidance, we also consulted a local elder, a shaman, to cleanse our conscience. The elder suggested that the temptation was brought about by negative elements in the house seeking to destroy the family in Francis's absence. We held a blessing ritual for the house and vowed never to let such a stain touch our lives again. I chose to be honest with my husband, telling him I could no longer handle being alone and needed him home. Francis decided to return to the Philippines for good to start a business with his savings. Today, Henry is vibrant again after his operation and the help of herbal supplements. Francis is here by my side, and our child is doing well with their therapy. The bitterness and sins of the past became a lesson for all of us. True happiness is not found in temptation. We came from the darkness, but through medicine and faith, we healed together and became whole again.